always in here.
Calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting for January 10th, 2023. If you'll please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Grieslock?
Here.
Mr. Izzy?
Here.
Mr. Poach?
Here.
Mr. Stevenson?
Here.
Mr. Wolfram?
Here.
Mr. Adams?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Biondo?
Here.
Mr. Little?
Here.
Mr. Ratcher?
Here.
Ms. Rock?
Here.
Mr. Hugus?
Here.
Mr. Sedlak?
Here.
Mr. Weldon?
Here. Council, I'm going to start this meeting with my annual State of the Municipality address. This is required by the Home Rule Charter. We do it every year in January. Council members, municipal manager, staff, and fellow Monroeville residents, Article 6, Section 606G of the Home Rule Charter requires for the mayor to prepare and deliver an annual State of the Municipality report for the citizens of Monroeville. A new makeup of municipal council with 4 new members has just successfully completed its first year by passing a $36.6 million budget, which continues to provide government services to Monroeville residents and their community. The budget had the same challenges we are all facing with inflation and the increase of costs of goods and services. Credit needs to be given to the manager, the finance department, the department heads, and the elected officials to complete this task. This 2023 budget funds all of our current departments, services, and amenities that provide the foundation for a successful community without a tax increase. Not only does it continue to provide public safety, public works, refuse, recycling, building and engineering, animal control, and other government services, it continues to provide quality of life amenities through our Recreation and Parks Department, Senior Citizen Center, and Library. These departments promote community wellness, provide gathering space, and connect residents while offering numerous programs and activities for all ages. This year, we plan to hire a consultant for the completion of a new Recreation and Parks comprehensive plan, which has not been updated in over 20 years. This document will outline a long-term plan for our parks and will direct project planning and aid in grant acquisition. In order for Monroeville to offer its services, there are costs that fall outside of an annual operating budget. Longer-term capital expenses on facilities, equipment, infrastructure all fall under our capital improvement program. Our latest capital improvement program has been developed, worked on, and considered for some time. The program addresses the needs that need to be repaired, replaced, or upgraded throughout all municipal departments and facilities. This year, Council has to decide to fund this very important program and to move forward on approval. Our last capital improvement program began in 2014 and concluded in 2018. In regards to community planning and development, this year will see us approve a new zoning ordinance and map. This document will steer Monroeville in regards to land use and community development. It will help guide neighborhood quality, economic development, our commercial corridor. Although there have been amendments along the way, our current zoning ordinance and zoning map were adopted in 1984. It is time for us to modernize this document to better outline how we want to see development occur in the municipality. In regards to land development, this past year there were numerous projects completed or placed under construction with an approximate value of $118 million. This is over a 25% increase from the previous year and is a good indicator of continued community development here in Monroeville. Some of the projects were the Penn Monroe Shops, Fox Plan Apartments, Sandy Hill Housing Development on Logan's Ferry Road, the Gateway School District Middle School Project, the VA Outpatient Clinic, the Tennis Center on Wingate Drive, and the Old William Penn Apartments. Council plans to fund over $1.5 million in road repairs this coming year. And in addition to the municipal roads we restore, maintain, and replace through our annual paving program, our main corridor, William Penn Highway, Business Route 22, will be repaved its entire length this year by PennDOT, along with other improvements. It is our main street and has not shown very well to our residents and visitors recently, so this will be a very welcomed improvement. When rehabbing our roads, we need to view them with consideration to our active transportation plan and incorporate it where we are able for the safety and well-being of our residents. In public safety, our police department saw the hiring of 5 officers this past year, which adds to our exceptional force. Our plan is to offer an additional test later this year to provide a list of candidates from which we can hire. As always, we continue to evaluate our policies and procedures and train for best law enforcement practices in our community. I fully support the department, and I am proud of their service. Now, many things were placed on hold or delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is time for us to move forward on these plans for the future of the municipality. Monroeville has so much to offer. It's a place where people want to live, businesses want to locate, and others want to visit. I want to thank my colleagues on council, all of the municipal employees, community organizations, businesses, and citizens for their contributions, and I ask for their continued help to keep it a great community. Council, we are moving over to our public comment period on proposed agenda items only. So this period is for agenda items only. We always ask that people give a 5-minute time limit for their comments. At the end of the meeting, there will also be another comment period for any municipal item. So is there anyone here that would like to address council on agenda items?
Can I ask a question, sir, before I come up?
You can make it is your comment period for any agenda item.
I have something in reference to Mr. Little's statement last week. Am I permitted to talk about that?
No.
If it's only if it's on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, then
Well, it says Route 22 resurfacing and sidewalks. My question.
if it's on the agenda, is it on the agenda or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, then please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Robert Serafini, and I live in Monroeville. My question is, last week, when Mr. Little brought up about the resurfacing of Route 22 and the fact that the sidewalks in front of the mall, and that was my primary question. What is the law governing sidewalks in Monroeville? Can someone answer that?
Well, we have a sidewalk ordinance, and if you're doing development, you're required to put in sidewalks. And you have to maintain your side. Most municipalities in the Commonwealth, if you have sidewalks, I mean, they're yours and you have to maintain them.
Okay, you mentioned the fact that when the movies were there at the mall, you didn't do it at that time. Can I ask why?
Well, I don't know how the parcels are laid out there, but the parcels have to be abutting the road where the sidewalks are going in, and where those movie theaters are, I don't know. Maybe that whole parcel extends down towards Route 22, I don't know that, and that may be the reason why.
Well, the sidewalk, in my opinion, would extend from Cole's sidewalk all the way up underneath the underpass. Am I correct?
That is correct. Well, it ends at Coles, and it's going to be under the underpass, you're correct, and it'll right before it stops at Biondo Ford.
Okay.
Beyond D Ford.
No relation.
No, really.
Okay. If we, since there are no sidewalks in, why is not CBL responsible for them?
Who?
Monroeville Mall.
Because there's no, the reason why PennDOT contacted me, we have an active transportation program that we did under a grant about 3-4 years ago. I think it was in 2018 we completed it. And they're aware of any municipality that has done an active transportation plan for multimodal, obviously cars, buses, bikes, any way you can get around in transport. So they contacted me, and that was the only area that they thought that they could get the sidewalks in there because we have an active transportation program. That's why they contacted me.
Okay, now, if that property belongs to Monroeville Mall, shouldn't they be putting it in?
Well, at this point, they're grandfathered, like any business currently is like, so grandfathered in. But if there was like new development at a site, they'd be required to put sidewalks in.
Okay, now, if we put the sidewalks in, as you discussed last week, who would bear the responsibility and the liability of that?
Well, that's a question there that if anything would happen there, that the courts would have to decide on if it went that far. And we have insurance and it protects us, for, as far as our liability is concerned. That's
So
the best way I can answer that, Bob, because nobody knows how that would, how much
So it's up
risk
to
you're
the
taking.
courts, not us.
Well, no, if you're gonna get sued, nobody knows where that's gonna, anytime you get sued, if somebody falls, the mall would get sued, the municipality would get sued, everybody gets sued.
And we would still maintain it as far as salt and snow?
The maintenance aspect of it, that would probably fall on us, I would think.
No, I think it'd be the property owner,
Property owner.
the property owner, which would be the mall.
Well, then if someone fell on that, why wouldn't it fall to the mall?
As far as the liability, Bob, didn't you say the mall would?
Yeah,
be
they would have the
responsible?
primary
Class action
liability.
suit.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wouldn't be, nothing to do with it then?
They would sue us
Well,
also.
they would sue us too, but we
Okay.
would raise the defense that we have immunity from suit on matters like that, with certain exceptions. So there's a good chance that we would be dismissed from any lawsuit like that unless they proved that we had notice of some condition and we had a responsibility, which I don't see that, just
Okay.
looking at your situation you're presenting.
And we talked last week about money for that. We would pay for everything on that? The sidewalk?
A small portion of it,
Small portion,
20%,
20%.
200,
a $20,000.
$20,000.
20 out of 200. Out of
Okay, that
100,000.
answers all my question. I just, when he brought that up last week,
Was it 100?
it sort of like puzzled me for a while, and I wanted to make sure I understood it a little bit better. Thank you.
I'll leave the floor open for comment on any agenda item.
My name is Ray Barandowski. There's a lot of, I would just say, people talking about this ordinance coming up here for feeding the animals. What was the what drove this? Is there an issue of some kind?
Yeah, we actually, do you have more comment about it? Because
Well,
I don't want to take your
I want to
time.
make sure before I open my mouth is, what was the issue?
All right, the initial issue was we had a coyote attack. We had a coyote
Good.
attack a
So
small animal
I'm
pet.
prepared to talk about that then, okay? Okay. I think we have enough ordinances as it is. I think the problem with what you want to implement, there's a lack of knowledge of people understanding animals, okay? A coyote is pretty prominent on what he does. He feeds on almost everything you could think of. He leaves a product called scat. It's not like dog poop. If you look at it, you'll be able to tell it, okay, it has hair in the bones, pretty prominent, okay? Coyotes come into an area because there's overabundance of food, okay? It doesn't have to naturally be human giving food to animals and everything. Like it could be people not in their trash can, putting a bag, putting it in, seal it, because they could smell it, okay? People feeding birds or anything like that, they're attracted to birds. They're attracted to chipmunks. They're attracted to squirrels, and so on, okay? And we have overabundance of this. As you can see, there's more rabbits now. We got more chipmunks and everything like that. You can prevent a coyote from coming into your property several ways, okay? If you got brush or undergrowth and everything like that, you're supposed to cut it, because they make a den there, okay? If you're leaving your food unattended in the garbage can, not putting locks on it, not closing and everything like that, just like your raccoon. He's very smart, he's gonna open it up, he's gonna get the food, okay? Coyotes are scared of noise, and they're scared of lights, okay? Solar lights, you can get them cheap now. If you walk in your perimeter, you'll see it, okay? If they hear a noise, they don't like it. They don't like humans, okay? From my understanding, somebody's dog got attacked by a coyote, okay? Well, I can tell you right now, if you're taking your dog out in the night, you should be whipped, okay? There's skunks out there. I took my dog out. My dog thought it was a cat. It's a skunk, okay? You got groundhogs bigger than dogs, I can show you a picture of this hawk by my house. It's over 2.5 feet big, okay? I think with all the ordinances you got in place, you have your guys' hands filled, and a lot of them aren't being implemented, okay? Because if you educate the people and say, hey, look, if you do this, this, and this, you won't have a situation. You can take ammonia, you can take mothballs, you can throw it around your property. They don't like that. You can pee. They hate human pee. I hate to say it, you can go out there and pee in your yard, it will bother, okay? But if you're gonna pass an ordinance and then people are gonna be looking, if they don't like you, they can say, well, you've been feeding something, okay? Or if they have chickens, I don't know if people have chickens, that's the new thing, have chickens. They could have rabbits. So you're gonna get into a situation where you're gonna be slapping fines on people that may be good citizens or bad citizens. I think it'd be cheaper, I can give you all the literature on coyotes and everything like that, just to hand out.
Well, to be clear, this isn't just about coyotes. You asked me what the beginning of it was, so that was the genesis.
But if you're gonna look at any animal, okay, they're all these animals are smart, okay? So if you're gonna say no feeding, it's gonna be a hard thing to implement, okay? Because the thing is, okay, if you have somebody that you're looking for somebody physically to put in the product out, okay, then somebody's gonna have to turn that person in. So if somebody doesn't like somebody and says, okay, he left his dog food out, that's physically feeding. He left his dog out in the yard, that's physically feeding. And that dog food being out there is gonna attract whatever, okay? If you have a garden, you're gonna attract deer, rabbits, everything. So I just think you guys should take 5 minutes back, think about it, and maybe implement the laws that you do have and say, keep your place clean, secure your trash. Do you know about these animals? These are how these animals survive because of you not doing what you're supposed to do, keep the community clean. And then if it doesn't work, after, say you give it a 6-month or a year period, then implement what you want to implement. But I think you're going to really tick off a lot of people, to implement a plan. Plus, you're going to have somebody implement that, okay? So you're going to either take your current staff, you're not going to be running around doing that, where you have stuff on the books already that you're not implementing. There's cars out there that are not inspected, people's houses got trash all over the place. You're not implementing that. I mean,
No, we do enforce, code enforcement does enforce that.
I'll take a ride with you any day you want to. Me and you can get into a car, and I'll take you anywhere you want to go, and I'll say it ain't being implemented. So I'm not here to challenge you. I'm just saying it's
No,
out
but there's a
there.
process with all those things. It's not
It's
as
out
simple
there.
as saying that, oh, you're doing this the wrong way. There's
I
courts, there's
understand that,
mail,
but
there's
that
certified mailings, so
process
there's a
is-
process, there's times,
Yeah,
it's
that
outside
process-
of our hands. It doesn't move as quickly as I would
No,
like it
no.
to move, but there are some things that are against us in implementing some
Oh,
of
I
it.
understand that. That's maybe where you should function, because, I mean, you leave 5 minutes out of here, there's a house that don't even have a roof on, and it's still there, going out past, where the Goodwill is. You know what I'm talking about. There's several houses out there that should be tore down, but we can't tear them down because we don't have the right laws in place. And we have people that have places that shouldn't have places. They just don't take care of them. They don't have the money. That's all I wanted to say. Just, think about before you implement this. It might be cheaper to put out a handout, see how that works, and say, hey, look, clean up your yards, lock your trash down, okay? Use some common sense. If you got coyotes, you could tell it's right there.
Right, well, once again, it's not all about just coyotes.
Well, if you're looking at deer, other places are implementing, to kill the deer.
I'm sure
okay.
that would go over much better than
Well,
stopping artificial feeding.
you're gonna get people that are gonna say they don't want the deer killed. Okay, you got rabbits, you can't get rid of rabbit. You'll have a rabbit every 30 days. That's how quick they multiply.
Sure.
So you look at all those animals out there, it's gonna be hard to stop it, And they're a predator. So a predator's gonna take care of the rabbits, he's gonna take care of this and that. So, and then the other thing is you guys might wanna think about when you're doing all this development, there's no more woods. Where do you think they're gonna go? Your yard. Because you're putting all these developments in there, they take all the trees out, where are they gonna go? So something to think about. That's all I'm saying. Okay?
I'll leave the comment period open for anyone who'd like to address council on any agenda item.
I have a comment on the same item. I was under, and Karen Howell, Elder.
Miss, I'm sorry, could you just state your name for the record?
I just did. Karen Howell, Elder.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood, I'm sorry. You got it? Sherry?
I,
Thank you.
I was under the impression with that ordinance on the feeding of animals that you were including feral cats. Is that true?
Yes, that's in the ordinance.
Yeah, it's not in the agenda printout of it, so that's why I wondered if that, I don't have a copy of the full ordinance.
Feral cats is included, yes.
That's what I was just gonna go back to.
Yeah, my comment on that is there are a number of other humane ways to handle that part of the situation. It has been proven through other municipalities and cities that a trap, neuter, and release program benefits everybody a lot more. With banning the feeding of feral cats, you're not only harming the cats, you're also impinging on the citizens that take the time, money, and also have those colonies neutered to keep the number of cats down and decreasing, which happens and has been documented in cities all over the United States and in European countries also. So what happens when you follow that plan is that the decrease in the population of the cats, because there are no kittens then things come under control. The cats aren't as in the habit of bothering the neighbors then. And the food, if you're worried about it being out, cats are very scheduled, so they can come in, feed right away when the food is put down, and then taken out of the area. So they're really not a big problem here. I am not aware of what colonies may exist in Monroeville, but I want to just have you think about having a trap, neuter, release program. And also included in these colonies may be a pet that someone has lost or a cat that somebody has dropped off. They're not all wildcats, as you may think. So consider that in the ordinance and maybe put a time limit on the food that can be put out. Like I said, cats are very scheduled. They'll come in, eat, and then they'll leave. And other cities have done this, and it's worked very well. So I just would like council to think about that before they vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would believe that a feral cat that was neutered by an owner, that wouldn't be considered a feral cat. It wouldn't be considered a stray cat. It would be ownership by the person who is caring for it and neutering it. So that would not fall underneath that. That would be more of just their outdoor cat. What we're trying to avoid is feral cat colonies where things get out of control, which it has in certain places, and then our animal control officer has more of a difficult time handling these things. So this would be one way to maybe try to control that. I agree with what your comments are, though, as far as the neutering. That ultimately is what will solve the problem.
Yes, and when you look at a cat that you may see on the street, if the left ear is tipped, that cat has been neutered and is no longer
Correct.
producing
Very good.
other kittens.
Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for anyone who would like to comment on any agenda item.
Firstly, Council, I do apologize for my appearance. I'm in my PJs. That's how important I felt.
We didn't notice, so you shouldn't have said anything.
Well, said it anyways.
Nice pajamas. So,
Thank you.
If you could just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, of course. My name is Caitlin. I am actually a resident of the city of Pittsburgh.
Well, Caitlin, I'm sorry. This is for Monroeville residents.
Even though it
only.
affects us?
Nope.
Oh.
Sorry,
Okay.
but we
Okay.
appreciate your concern. Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for, I'm sorry, any Monroeville resident that would like to address council on the agenda. Seeing none, we're going to move forward through the agenda and close that comment period. I have an executive session announcement that council conducted an executive session before Citizens Night on Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023, and before tonight's council meeting from 6:15 to 7 p.m. for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the Tuesday, January 10th council meeting. Council, moving to the approval of minutes to consider this evening are the Citizens Night of December 6th, 2022, the council agenda-setting meeting of December 6th, 2022, and the regular council meeting of December 13th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Hizzy?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Biondo?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Reports of the tax collections.
Motion to approve, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the reports of the tax collections. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Biondo?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Hizzy?
Aye.
The ayes have it. List of bills and budget transfers.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Hizzy?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Biondo?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And the payroll report.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Biondo?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram?
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Poach?
Aye.
Mr. Hizzy?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Council, moving over to vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. Mr. Hizzy, anything this evening?
I'd like to vote Dara Brown for the, appoint Dara Brown to the an expired term for the OPEB Trust Committee.
That's an appointment. There's a motion to appoint. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Hizzy,
That's all I have for today.
thank you, sir. Mr. Poach,
On appointment, this is an appointment for Robert Petrilli, for Second Ward, for the Monroeville Municipal Authority.
that's a motion to appoint.
appoint.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Poach,
I'm double checking to see if I missed anybody else. 1 second, Your Honor.
Planning Commission?
No, I don't. Nothing else. That's all for now.
very good. Mr. Stevenson,
I would like to make a motion to appoint James Rosenpale to the Public Service Commission. Second.
motion and a second to appoint. Roll call, or, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Stevenson, anything else?
Yes, I would also like to nominate John Washington for the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board.
That is a nomination. He is, he's duly nominated. Very good. No, no second required.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wolfram,
Yes, I have a motion to appoint Thomas Pegg for a second term in the Monroeville Municipal Authority.
Second.
motion and a second to appoint. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Adams?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
I'd like to appoint Emily Lafredo to the Library Board.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Next, I'd like to appoint James Rosapel to the Police Civil Service Commission.
We already got him?
We got it.
Already got him.
Yep,
Already did.
he's
that.
good.
You just got that.
Okay. All right,
Commission's yours.
He's only on there once.
yeah. And for the Planning Commission,
Leonard.
make a motion to appoint Leonard Bertoni for a second term.
Second.
Motion and a second to appoint. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And I'd like to appoint Robert Hutchison to the Zoning Hearing Board.
Second.
Motion and a second to appoint. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Biondo.
I'd like to nominate Scott Gallagher to the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board to be his second term.
Second
Very good. That's a nomination. Excellent.
nomination, okay.
Anything else? Mr.
And I'd like to nominate Curtis Lewis Burke to the Planning Commission. That's a nomination as well.
Parsley. Receive. Yep, he's nominated. Very good. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Mr. Mayor, I missed one if I may.
Yes, Mr. Biondo, are you done?
I am done, yes.
Very good. Mr. Stevenson.
Charlotte Vogel to the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board nomination.
That's a nomination as well, correct, Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Very good. We got her.
Thank you.
Council, anything else? Did you miss anything? Very good. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. We have one resolution this evening. Mr. Little.
Yeah, this is a resolution adopting the Lodovico Development Sewage Planning Module.
Council, is there a motion to act on this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hizzy.
Aye.
Mr. Poach.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram.
Aye.
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Biondo.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving to our ordinances, we have two this evening. Mr. Ratcher.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, prohibiting the feeding of wild animals and providing penalties for the violation of such regulations. And this matter is on the table, so if council chooses to act, you'll have to first remove it from the table.
Mr. Mayor, I think we need to keep this on the table till we can discuss this a little further. And
Well, that's an option. I mean, so
I
unless
concur.
unless I hear somebody say they want to remove the table.
Then it stays there.
I concur with Mr. Wolfram. More discussion is needed.
So
I think we need to discuss this a little bit further.
if there are no other, Mr. Ratcher, if you want to.
No, well, no action.
What I'm saying is-
Correct.
No
Stay-
motion.
stay-
Yeah, just say, yeah.
Correct, yeah, and I agree with
Right.
that. I just didn't know unless somebody else was going to
Right.
No motion.
make a motion to do anything else to it.
Sure.
Very good. It is tabled till next month.
Okay,
It'll be considered at the February meeting or later.
yes.
Next ordinance, Mr.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the proper officials of Monroeville to enter into a collective bargaining agreement with the Police Department Wage Policy Committee of the Municipality of Monroeville for the contract years 2023 through 2026.
Good. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any questions or comments?
Was that this one?
The police one.
That's the police one? I'm sorry.
No, Bobby, I'm sorry. It's long.
This is the one we're.
I'll just make the
doing?
comment. I think it's,
We,
I'm glad that we got to this point, and, you know, we all support our police department. They do a great job. And just want to say thanks to Mr. Little and Mr. Sedlak, and also the police negotiating committee for getting this done. So there is a motion and a second to approve this item. Any other questions or comments?
Question,
Go ahead.
or comment, or both. I firmly believe that we can do better than we have on this particular item. I actually wanted to see it go to arbitration. I did not win that argument, so I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, council? So there is a motion and a second to approve this item. Roll call, please.
Mr. Biondo.
aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Adams.
Aye.
Mr. Wolfram.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson.
No,
Mr. Poach.
Aye.
Mr. Hizzy.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving over to reports of our municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher,
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
thank you. Mr. Little.
Yes, as I have underneath my report is the item we were talking about before as far as the sidewalks at the mall near Route 22. Jared, you want to bring up that? Thank you very much. As I mentioned at the work session last week, PennDOT is going to be paving, they'll be letting out contracts very soon here. And they're going to be paving Route 22 from the Churchill interchange to Route 48. It's about almost 2.5 miles of road. And part of that, because we have what's called an active transportation program, they asked if we wanted to have sidewalks put in at a nominal cost, 20% of what it would originally cost. And I brought this to council's attention. It will be up to council if they wanted me to let PennDOT know tomorrow morning to include that in the contract for whatever contractor is successful in getting the bid. So I leave this up for discussion again for council because council decided to talk about it again at this meeting and quite possibly make a motion one way or the other. So I'll leave the floor open for council.
I think it's a good idea to have, to put sidewalks in there. I think we are trying to be a pedestrian-friendly community. as far as the liability is concerned, you have liability if somebody's walking on the road as opposed to walking on the sidewalk. I think it's a good idea. We're getting a good discount have these sidewalks in. I believe PennDOT's paying 80%. We pay 20%. I'm for this. I'm for having PennDOT include the sidewalks.
Very good. Mr. Williams.
For 30 years, since I started on the Planning Commission, I've been fighting for sidewalks, hoping that eventually every sidewalk in Monroeville will connect. And that may be wishful thinking, but a sidewalk is like a picture frame around a picture. It just makes a project look good. So I think it's a good buy, and it's a good start, and we just got to keep connecting them when we can. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, council?
Comments also would be, nobody's bringing up the fact that they're also going to upgrade the curb ramps at the McMaster plan, it says here in the notes.
Yeah, that's a nominal cost of about $1,800. They have to fix those depressions up by McMaster's and
PennDOT is also including that in the bid, right?
Correct,
Right.
correct.
Yeah, and like Mr. Biondo, Mr. Williams said, I mean, this is something we've been trying to do for many, many years. Even current development, we require businesses or new developers to put sidewalks in for the hopes, like Mr. Williams said, is that over time, things will start to connect. I think this is a good opportunity to get this done now, with the state paying for most of it, and it does satisfy some of the things that we've outlined in our active transportation plan. So I think this is a good move for council. So what I would like to do is maybe, I guess we'd seek a motion for Mr. Little for direction to move forward on this item.
So move.
Question and a comment first, if I may, Mayor.
Sure.
I personally believe this should be a mall-financed sidewalk. It's their property. I don't think the municipality should be entering into anything that is on somebody else's property. Thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second.
I didn't hear
Any-
the second.
No second.
There is
but
a
I'll
motion,
second.
like
I'll
I
second.
said,
I'll second it.
and a second. I told you. And now, still, any other comments or questions? So there is a motion second to approve this item. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hizzy,
No.
Mr. Poach.
Aye.
Mr. Stevenson,
No.
Mr. Wolfram.
Aye.
Mr. Adams,
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Biondo.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Very good. Mr. Little, anything else for this evening?
No, that's all I have. Oh, yeah, one comment, because we were talking about, you brought up underneath your State of the Union, or State of the Municipality address about the Park and Rec Comp Plan. I'm working on the RFP for that right now, and other things are keeping me from getting that to fruition, but that will be forthcoming, council, in the coming month, or by March at least, February or March, okay?
Very good.
Just as an FYI.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Mr. Hugus.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Ms. Rock.
Nothing.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to open up the floor for public comment on any municipal item. Now will be your chance to address council. For residents, taxpayers to address council on any municipal item, we ask you keep your comments to a 5-minute time period. Once you sign in, if you could just state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, this is Lois Drumheller, Monroeville. And I greet you all, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. I have been playing catch-up on the thankful YouTube videos that we have for those of us that cannot attend things, and I've been doing that with the Planning Commission's meetings, and I'm caught up pretty well since August of this last year. Preceding that, I think it was March of last year, that there was a motion that passed for the Strategic Solutions to be called in to take a look at the zoning ordinance that was originally supposed to have been updated in 2015, I think, and that passed. And so what I was very interested in looking at was the catch-up period of when Strategic Solutions did their first presentation in front of planning, and subsequently they had the ordinance that it was described across all these meetings as basically a very good ordinance based on what was a proposed ordinance back in 2014. And that has been something that I do remember from back then, but in the 300-plus pages of that reproposal of the comprehensive zoning ordinance, it was very clear to me after covering all the meetings, there was about a minute of it spent going over something near and dear to my environmentalist heart, and that is, how will you update oil and gas operations? And in fact, I talked to my councilman, Mr. Stevenson, and told him that, I agreed with you, Bob, because I think that comprehensively, what you're looking at here to what I call mixed zoning, apartments on top of storefronts, that invites people down to a town center, and I think some of these things need to be changed and looked at. I'm not sure about the crematoriums, but anyway, the one that I really was trying to find out all this time, and finally made a trip to see Mr. Weldon, was to try to find out how oil and gas was being treated, because in 2018, when some members then of Sustainable Monroeville came up in front of that council, we had concerns over anything that was beyond the vertical wells that were in the 1984 ordinance, to also show how this can be done safely, why setbacks were mentioned. I had this document that was a 10-page document we handed in to every member of council at that time and every member of the Planning Commission at that time. You'll probably remember that, Bob Williams, at that time. And then what we really wanted to do was to get the that was the current state of the affair of having oil and gas operations in every zoning district, and show that that wasn't the wisest thing to do. It needed to be delegated, and we even had somebody from Food and Water Watch meet with the mayor, the manager, and Mr. Ratcher to discuss this. And I think a very wise decision at that time was to move oil and gas operations where even the governor-elect and their committees that they've had recognize that it needs to be put into an industrial zone. So that was a wise decision in 2018. It might have been 2018 February that oil and gas operations, such as it was, didn't have an ordinance, was moved to M2. And I really wanted to know, what was the existence of that? Was it going to be the same? Were there going to be safety issues in a real zoning ordinance? I couldn't see it, and none of us were allowed to see it, and that is where my bone of contention lays, and that the public does not have the right to see what are those proposed changes. So when I met with Mr. Weldon before the 21st of December, when I attended the Planning Commission, I'm sorry, I really do have to bring you up to date to this, Mayor, because I'm not sure if...
Yeah, so I'm giving you 4 minutes, so...
This is something that since then, I've had discussions. In fact, I had a lot of them. In fact, I left a message and you wrote me back.
You got it back, good.
I got your email in return. I've had discussions with Mr. Weldon. I've had discussions with Mr. Sedlak because he was the open records officer. And my question was, if the public doesn't have an idea of how things change, how can we, when it comes to us having a public hearing, have anything to go on? And in the denial of sharing that with the public is still my concern. I'd like to know if council is considering any type of dialogue with the Planning Commission because of the December 21st meeting. At the end of that meeting, the Planning Commission agreed that the public should have a chance. They tabled a vote to give it more time for the public to review that. Are you planning on having any meetings for the purpose of this discussion with either members of the Planning Commission or amongst yourselves? If so, would you please share that information with me now? This is a real concern that all I could do is look over the shoulder and see that, yeah, we have changes in our zoning, we have changes that allow a conditional use of oil and gas operations for unconventional, not just straight wells, but the typical unconventional wells that we have great examples of in the next county over. You just travel 10 miles, you go down to Trafford, and you get to see Harrison City, Trafford, and all these areas.
Wrap up your comments, Mrs. Drumheller.
What you can answer is my question as to whether or not you have any meetings planned to discuss this with the Planning Commission, because I really think at this point, they are pausing so that we might, as the public, be able to see the language. And I've already seen that there are changes that puts conditional use of oil and gas wells on top of the landfill. Okay, 2,000 feet away from the middle of the landfill is Thomas Street and all of Mellon Plan, and that is really the distance, what I understand just from listening, there was a 1,200-foot setback. Maybe you could explain, was there a 1,200-foot setback to structures when considering conditional use of oil and gas operations due to the M2 zone being too narrow, and then therefore it would be exclusionary? That may have been a reason to move this. Who made the decision to do that? Why can't the public see that language? Why can't the public see the proposed zoning map? Why can't the public see the proposed zoning use table? This is not anything that it puts anybody at risk. In fact, it does the opposite. It considers the very important input of the public toward that decision. So again, I ask you.
We appreciate your comments.
I ask you if you are having a meeting, and I didn't get an answer.
I'm waiting for you to complete your comment
I am complete.
period. Thank you. Let me leave the floor open for other members that would like to address council.
And you will answer?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I got one thing for you guys, which maybe save you a ton of money. I want you to write this down, and you guys can go check it tonight, tomorrow, whatever. The name is Velocity Roads. You use it in Europe. It's a truck that has asphalt in it. It blows the hole out, puts the asphalt in, smooth it down, 5 minutes flat. They use it in Europe, big time. And it's a permanent seal. Just look at it, save you guys a ton of money when you're doing all these repairs and everything like that. It's not going to cost you anything. Just go to the website, look at, it's real popular over in Europe. I think it would be a plus here. And you cut down on your people, cut down on your people, and the patch is permanent. It ain't, you have to go back and do it. It's called Velocity Roads. I'm done. I'll see you gentlemen.
Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for anyone who'd like to address council on any municipal item.
Okay, hi, good evening. My name is David Mintz. I'm a longtime Monroeville resident. Most of you probably know me already. I wanted to follow up Mrs. Drumheller's comments and look forward to the answers to the questions that she had already, so that I can just add some other things. So actually, coming to this meeting tonight, I was also at the Planning Commission meeting on the 21st and spoke that evening. And at the end of that meeting, like Mrs. Drumheller said, they tabled moving forward with the the amendments to our zoning ordinance, so that the public could get a look at it, to understand it better, to learn about it, to have questions, so that we can be part of the process, working with the council, working with the Planning Commission, working with the employees of Monroeville. And so, like, my curiosity is like coming to a meeting like tonight. There are two ordinances to be on a roll call vote here on our agenda, and so actually this is connected, and by saying it, were both of these ordinances made available to the public on our website? Like I could go to the Monroeville website and read both of the ones that were going to be voted on tonight. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, the wildlife feeding one, yes. Right. The police contract, I don't believe that was on the website.
Okay, so some are, some aren't. I'm not sure how we decide. I mean, it might have to do with legal matters. I'll let you answer that. But so like the wild animal one was on our website for people to read. How long was it on there? How long before it gets onto an agenda to be voted on does something become available to the public? That would be one of my questions. Like right now, it would be great, once again, just like Mr. Drumheller said, to be able to go over the details, and especially, once again, the topic, as you probably know, that I'd be talking about is to the oil and gas and development in Monroeville. When I spoke to the Planning Commission last month, I pointed out to them, because Strategic Solutions was there, and they were making certain points on probably a very long ordinance, and I didn't have it to follow along or to refer to, and nobody has it, obviously, to be able to do that at this point, which made that as a public hearing difficult to participate in. It was advertised legally as a public hearing, but I didn't have access to the ordinance. So I guess one of my questions would be how far in advance do we get a chance to look at it and to really delve into it? And I also made a comment to the commission that speaking on oil and gas, on the same subject, that Council made a wise decision several years ago to vote to take industrial fracking, hydraulic fracturing, as an industrial use to be put into an industrial zone. And that's what zoning's all about, right? Appropriate use in an appropriate zone, and that we voted on it. It's the law of Monroeville. It's an ordinance. As I am aware that there are proposed changes, amendments to the ordinance as it is now, to the law of Monroeville as it is now, to open up such activities, such industrial activities, to not only M2 industrial, but to also the new zone of LF landfill, as well as S Conservancy. And S Conservancy, for everybody at home, if you didn't realize, that's pretty much every green space of Monroeville. That's our parks. Those are the green spaces between neighborhoods, next to schools. I mean, the S Conservancy, if you look at a map, it's the green spaces of Monroeville. So it's pretty darn important to understand if we're going to make it a conditional use to do unconventional oil and gas development, which is an industrial process, and now this proposal made by a company that we're paying, Strategic Solutions, would overturn or change, if voted into law, the law that the previous council already voted into place. So, I mean, it should be taken very seriously that a law that was already voted into place, just because a company is proposing changes to it, doesn't mean we have to go along with that, and that would really affect everybody in Monroeville. If it's a matter of, as I've spoken to this council and previous council many times, if it's a matter of trying to take an arbitrary setback number and change it from the current Pennsylvania setback is 500 feet, but as I've spoken many times about, scientific studies have said that it really should be 2,000 or 2,500 feet at the minimum. And even, as an article that's right here from Salon.com, the Pennsylvania State Grand Jury recently released a report after a 2-year investigation into the hydraulic fracturing industry and the state's handling of it. Number 1 on its list of 8 recommendations was expanding no-drill zones in Pennsylvania from the required 500 feet to 2,500 feet. I bring that up because the proposed 1,200-foot setback seems arbitrary. If it's not matching up with what science and the grand jury, if it doesn't match up with any kind of recommendations from either a grand jury or science, where does the 1,200-foot proposal come from? Strategic Solutions just made up a number, maybe, I don't know, but I don't know because I don't have access to the ordinance. So, and I understand the idea. I've spoken with Mr. Ratcher before, this idea that you don't want to make something exclusionary, right? So if we make it 1,200 feet, the idea would be, is Monroeville going to get sued because the 1,200 feet makes our M2 industrial exclusionary? Well, then, if we're going to increase the setback, why make it an arbitrary number? Make it with what the grand jury of Pennsylvania, what our current governor now, when he was Attorney General, convened, or the science that has been spreading across the country from University of Maryland and other sources. So I guess my 2 main questions, hopefully you can answer, is when we get access, how far in advance do we get access to these changes, and where did the proposed changes come from? And we have to study them very carefully because it affects all of us, and we don't want just arbitrary numbers that make it so that this industrial process fits into another zone of Monroeville that's not appropriate. Do you understand what I mean? If we just say, well, 1,200 feet will fit in the landfill, or 1,200 feet will fit in this green space over here, so let's not make it 1,400 because 12 fits, even though 1,200 is completely arbitrary according to science and to the grand jury. So why not leave it in an industrial zone as an appropriate use?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
evening, all.
Good evening.
Okay, so my name is Jesse, and even though my partner is not a resident of Monroeville, I am. Also, there is nowhere in your bylaws, and I would like to focus on section 25-7C, where it doesn't say that a citizen can speak. It doesn't have to be a citizen of Monroeville, it can be a citizen. There's nothing in your bylaws that states that she could not have spoken tonight. However, I'm going to read to you the statement that she was going to say this evening. So, I am here tonight to express the urgency that you do not pass the wild animal feeding bill as it is currently written. Trap, neuter, release, otherwise known as TNR, is so important to keep feral cat populations down. A lot of these animals have been abandoned by the people who used to care for them. Some of them have been born into this life and can be rescued as kittens. Okay. TNR rescuing requires feeding of these cats to trap them successfully and release them back into their colonies, or to rescue or adopt them out if they are young enough. I am not sure you're aware or not, Council, but a video currently went viral online where two women, one of which was 80 years old, okay, they were arrested for doing TNR because of the fact that you guys put an ordeal in place where, you know, it's against law, all right? An 80-year-old woman put into the back of a squad car for caring for animals that humans abandoned at some point. To remove the ability to TNR because of the banning of feeding of them, a necessary portion of it is cruel punishment to animals that need humans to advocate for them. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot help themselves, and we must do it for them, like all animals. Please remove this portion from the bill, as to leave it in would set a horrible example for surrounding communities, in addition to many other downsides. You folks are who Pittsburgh looks to, okay? You folks are who other people and other communities look to. You know, yes, there's a feral cat population problem. TNR is the best way to handle it. So you all have to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for anyone that would like to address council on any municipal item. Seeing none, we're going to close that comment period. Move on to reports of our council members. Mr. Hizzy.
I have none.
Mr. Poach.
Just to continue to encourage folks, as we were looking at our committees and nominations for more folks to apply, we seem to go in cycles of up and down, folks to do that, and we have a number of open vacancies on those committees and boards, so please continue to participate. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson.
I would just like to reiterate my New Year's resolution and wish that everyone else would adopt it also, that we need to be kinder to each other than we have been in the past. There's way too much violence out there. We don't need to be part of that. Be kind to your neighbors, be kind to animals. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Wolfram.
I'd like to make a comment about this ongoing thing with the thing about the animals. Look, we're just trying to do the best thing for Monroeville and things of that nature. I understand there's a lot of cats. I was a mailman for 33 years here. I ran across a couple of houses where there was over hundreds of cats. I actually took a couple of the cats myself. Again, people, we're going to try to do the best we can, and that's why I wanted to keep this on the table so we can look at it further. And again, we will try to do the best thing we can, and we just want to thank you. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfram. Mr. Adams.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Mayor, your stated municipality address was well taken. You mentioned no new tax hike, and I want the public to know one of the reasons is that we got a lot of new business in Monroeville. And every time you go out on 22 and get in a traffic jam, be pleased, because the businesses are what keeping your tax down. And I'm pro-business, and Monroeville, I think, is the second highest generator of sales tax in Allegheny County, next to Pittsburgh. So Monroeville does a good service. Shop in Monroeville. Come on in with your business. We appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Biondo.
Mr. Mayor, like Bob said, nice job with the state of Monroeville. Bob Stevenson, I agree with your New Year's resolution, and I hope everybody abides by it. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Dennis.
I have something else here. On this comprehensive zoning ordinance, there's certain steps that have to be taken. First, the planning commission, then, and if I'm wrong, Mr. Wilding can step in, and then it goes to engineering to look it over, then it goes to the county, then it comes to council, which we will hold public hearings. Is that correct? Is there anything that I missed?
The order might have been a little wonky, but
Okay.
all those steps happen.
Well, repeat the order.
Yeah, Mr. Wheeldon, if you don't mind, if you could just maybe just tell us the order of how this works out.
Planning commission first, then the council, then to the county.
Then the council and the county.
And once the county is done with their review, then it comes back to council and it is adopted.
And when do we have public hearings on that?
Yes.
Beforehand?
Yes.
Okay. Just so the public knows, so you're not left out in the cold thinking that we're just going to do it with no input from the public.
The public hearings are before the county, correct? Is that right?
Yeah,
Planning commission,
they can be concurrent also.
Okay.
Yeah, so to that point, council, what I want to recommend as we move forward with this, so there will be a public hearing on that zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Prior to that happening, that public hearing is going to be advertised. The ordinance would be available for review for residents. There will be a public hearing when residents will have time to speak. I'll be, as putting together the agenda, I will not recommend putting that ordinance on the same month that, to be voted on, that we're having the public hearing. So therefore, having it probably will not be in February, but if, let's say, if we had the public hearing in February, the soonest that we would act on it would be the March meeting. More often than not, though, that it probably won't be ready for council as far as the public hearing process until March or maybe even later. Is that correct, Mr. Wheeldon?
Correct.
Will the public get it before council has a public hearing on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the public will have it before
Council.
council has the public hearing for the residents and for interested parties. But we will not vote on it that same month. More than likely, typically what we do with public hearings, so let me back up a second, our meetings are always the first and second Tuesdays of the month. So the first Tuesday of the month is our citizens' night, when you could talk about any municipal item whatsoever, just like this period here. But on that first meeting, we have that at the beginning of the meeting. Then we have that same meeting, we have our agenda-setting meeting where we talk about the things that we are going to be voting on that following Tuesday. So the first Tuesday, we don't vote, it's not a voting meeting. That would probably be when we would have the public hearing, would be at that evening for the first Tuesday of the month, whenever it would be. And this would be an advertised meeting. We'd make sure people knew well in advance. Then we would have the following meeting, the following Tuesday of that same month. We would not be voting and considering it. However, since it would still be on the agenda, that would afford two separate comment periods for residents regarding that matter. And then the following month, then there'd be two more comment periods for the first Tuesday of the month and the second Tuesday of the month prior to any voting. So once this moves forward, there's going to be 4, maybe even 5 opportunities for citizens to address council, to make some of these changes, raise these concerns. Once again, this is from 1984. Yes, a lot of amendments, but this was last done in 1984. We all want to get this right. You know, we're not trying to rush things or hide things. We want public input. We want business community input. We want, all the stakeholders' input. And if it takes longer than what I just outlined, it's going to take longer. We can always table things, just like we do with the wildlife feeding ordinance. We can always push it down later, multiple months. But by no means do we want to rush this. We want to get it right. We want everybody's input. And I believe the council agrees with me on that, and staff. So those are all the comments I have this evening in regards to that. As far as the wildlife feeding ordinance, we can discuss it further. You know, this, as the gentleman left, but the genesis began with a coyote attack. However, this got into a deeper conversation with the Game Commission. The Pennsylvania Game Commission is not in favor of feeding wildlife. You know, it does more harm than good. It spreads disease with the deer. It can ruin habitat. I mean, from their website, they even say, while feeding deer may enhance wildlife viewing, decades of research has clearly shown that supplemental feeding leads to increased disease risk, long-term habitat destruction, increased vehicle collisions, habitation to humans, and alteration of deer behavior patterns, and ultimately the demise of the value of deer and deer-related recreation. So it's not that we are against the deer. Actually, feeding them in the wild actually does more harm to them than good. There's multiple studies about this. In the winter, they want to actually use less energy, and when they expend more energy to get to an artificial feeding site, they're burning more calories than what they should. They're actually doing harm. And then, yes, along the way, predators come in, and predators will follow those feeding trails and those deer trails. And those are the kind of things we're trying to avoid. And by no means, I mean, me personally, I don't want to be dedicating resources to, you know, checking every backyard to see if people are feeding. But what this would do is this would give the animal control officer some authority to take care of some of the problem situations that come about with excessive wildlife feeding. And then we didn't even touch on some of the other issues that I get complaints of from constituents, as far as, you know, deer destroying people's landscape. Also, you know, we talk about disease spread to humans. As far as Lyme disease, Pennsylvania is the #1 cause, or the leader in Lyme disease cases in the country, and certainly a large mammal. Deer are the main carriers of ticks. There could be 1,000 ticks on one deer. One female adult tick can spawn multiple offspring. So we're bringing these things into our neighborhood. So there's a whole host of reasons why we don't want to do this, but by no means, there are no positives to wildlife feeding deer, other than the enjoyment that people get from viewing the wildlife. You know, that's definitely, we won't discount that. However, it's definitely doing more harm than good. But this is tabled. We can talk about it further. We can think about it more. Maybe there's some suggestions from the residents here this evening, the way we could tweak a little bit to cover some of the concerns that you had, but this is to be discussed or considered at the February meeting. And with that, I want to seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you and good night.
Hey, Tim.